We're moving to question time now. I expect senators to come to order, and I'll call Senator Birmingham.
Thanks, President. President, my question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. I ask the Minister, firstly, does the government welcome cooperation between the United States, United Kingdom and other nations to speed up investment in next-generation zero-emissions nuclear energy technologies? Further, Minister, I draw to your attention a statement from the UK Labor government in which it said of the agreement signed between the UK and the US that it is also expected to be signed by Australia. Can the Minister inform the Senate whether Australia will or will not be signing this agreement with US and UK partners?
Thank you, Senator Birmingham. Minister Wong.
The answer is no. Australia is not signing the nuclear energy agreement. That's because we do not have a nuclear energy industry. What we will keep doing is continuing to work closely with our international partners to reach net zero, and we will remain observers to this agreement to continue to support our scientists and other nuclear research fields. Now, I think we all understand what Senator Birmingham is seeking to do with this question, which is seeking somehow to build some foundation, some scaffolding around the policy, the so-called policy, that Mr Dutton announced. A policy that we know will cost billions of dollars, which they haven't fessed up to, and a policy which will deliver, was it 4%? Yep. 4% of Australia's energy needs. So they are desperate to try and find some economic credibility on this point, but the facts are entirely against them. And not only are the facts against them, and the market is against them, and the advice from AEMO and others in the field is against them. We also know what else is against them, and that is their record. Because the reason we have the challenges we have in the energy sector is 22 failed policies under you. And now we still have Senator Canavan and others, President, Senator Canavan and others already calling into question the policy of the opposition when it comes to their targets. So, Senator Birmingham, you can ask all the questions you like, attempting to use others in order to provide scaffolding and foundation to your policy, but everybody knows it is without foundation.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Birmingham, first supplementary.
President, first supplementary. How did the UK government come to believe that Australia was going to sign this agreement? Did the Albanese government make any representations to the UK government related to its references to Australia, stating that Australia would join UK and US forces to speed up advanced nuclear technology development?
Thank you, Senator Birmingham. Minister Wong.
I think that's not really a question to me. What I can say to you is, it's a question about a press release from Ed Miliband, who is a good friend of mine and someone with whom I work very closely in the lead up to Copenhagen. We both remember that challenging period very well. But my point is that this is not an agreement the Australian government will be signing up to. As I said in my primary response, though, it is the case that ANSTO is participating as an observer for the reasons I outlined in my answer to the primary question.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Birmingham, second supplementary.
Thanks. Minister, is Ed Miliband correct when he says that, quote, advanced nuclear technology will help decarbonise industry by providing low-carbon heat and power, supporting new jobs and investment? Isn't the only reason that the Albanese Labor government is unwilling to cooperate with the US and UK because you're scared of undermining your scare campaign in Australia at the next election?
Thank you, Senator Birmingham. Minister Wong.
Through you, President, what I'd say to Senator Birmingham is we are focused on what we are doing here. It is true that other countries have a longer history of turning to nuclear power generation for their domestic needs. The point is Australia has not. The point is Australia has a vast array of renewable energy sources at enormous potential, and we know from all of the advice that was given to us and was given to you and to us is that nuclear is expensive and its arrival will be tardy. I mean, if you're talking about 4% in 2040, this is not a solution to the challenges Australia faces, and no amount of looking to what the rest of the world does or may do can get over the fact that your policy
the time for
cannot deliver.
has expired. Senator Marielle Smith.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. After a decade of reckless neglect and mismanagement of the healthcare system by the Liberals and Nationals that left bulk billing in a mess, how is the Albanese Labor government investing to improve Australia's healthcare system for all Australians? And in particular, how is the government strengthening Medicare, the heart of universal healthcare, and easing cost of living pressures with cheaper medicines?
Order. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and thanks to Senator Smith for her question and for her focus on health costs and affordable health care for Australians. And she is a member of a government and a party that understands what Medicare is. Yeah. We understand what Medicare is, and unlike those opposite, we will always work to strengthen Medicare. We will always work to strengthen Medicare. We will always work to strengthen Medicare, and that is why our government has worked to make medicines cheaper, has worked to increase bulk billing, has established urgent care clinics to help patients access the care they need, and strengthening Medicare. And I'll take the interjection from Senator Ruston.
Senator Ruston.
We know her record when it comes to this. We remember her in this chamber giving everyone in Australia a lecture about how we have to make Medicare more sustainable. That's why we can't put more money into it. We have to cut more, or we have to charge you more. Now, this year, this government froze the price of PBS medicines for general patients until the end of 2025, and at $7.70 for concession patients until the end of 2029. We have delivered the largest price reduction in the 75-year history of the PBS. The largest price reduction in the 75-year history of the PBS. Australians have saved billions on cheaper prescriptions since January 2023, in part because of the introduction of 60-day prescriptions for around 300 common medicines. Who opposed that? Who opposed that? And who is now shouting at me and pretending they care about Medicare after voting for more expensive medicines for Australians? That is you, Senator Ruston.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Ruston, withdraw that comment.
Minister of Chamber, I withdraw.
Thank you. Minister Wong, please continue.
Cheaper medicines under us, more expensive medicines under them.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Marielle Smith, first supplementary.
Thanks, President. How has bulk billing improved in the year since the Albanese Labor government made the largest investment in it in Medicare's history to increase the incentive to bulk bill families with children under 16, pensioners and concession card holders?
Senator Ruston, I'm calling on you to at least be quiet while the question is asked. Minister Wong.
Well, when we came to government, bulk billing was falling off a cliff because of their 6-year freeze on Medicare rebates. We have a different approach. On the 1st of November last year, Labor tripled the bulk billing incentive, the largest investment in bulk billing in Medicare's history, 103,000 additional bulk billed appointments per week. This is what Senator Ruston said at the time claimed would not result in a single additional patient being bulk billed. That's what she said, not a single additional patient being bulk billed. Well, sorry, you're wrong. And you're wrong. In fact, in South Australia alone, the home state I share, that you and I share, there have been 460,000 additional visits. 460,000 additional visits. Let's talk about Medicare urgent care clinics. 900,000 visits to these clinics, every single visit completely bulk billed. Mr Dutton didn't want any of those visits. We know, Senator Ruston, you can yell wrong all you like, but you voted against cheaper medicines and you are against bulk billing.
Thank you, Minister.
Demonstrated by your record.
Come to Senator Ruston. I've lost count of the number of times I've called you to order. If you can't sit in here in silence, please leave the chamber. Senator Marielle Smith, second supplementary.
Here in the Senate, we have seen the Liberals and Nationals oppose everything from cheaper medicines to urgent care clinics and even tripling the bulk billing incentive. Why is it that Australians can only trust a Labor government to invest in healthcare and a stronger Medicare?
Thank you, Senator Smith. Minister Wong.
Thank you. Well, those opposite are opposed to cheaper medicines. They are opposed to investments in bulk billing, and they're opposed to urgent care clinics. Are they just opposed to Medicare? That's the question people want to know. But what we know is Mr Dutton arrogantly puts political battles ahead of helping people. He stands in the way of a more affordable healthcare system after a decade he spent trashing the system. Let's remember, when Mr Dutton was Health Minister, he tried to get rid of bulk billing in this country altogether. Honestly, I know you're embarrassed by it. Mr Dutton, as Health Minister, tried to remove bulk billing in this country altogether. No amount of shouting over me, President, is going to absolve them of their history, because it goes to their character, and it goes to their agenda. You are not supporters of Medicare.
Thank you, Minister. Order across the chamber. Order. I'm still waiting for order. You've got one of your own senators on his feet waiting to ask a question. I want silence. Thank you, Senator Ayres. Senator O'Sullivan.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. Construction levels have declined to rates not seen since 1989. Housing affordability has fallen to the lowest point since records began in 1996. Minister, is this not clear evidence that Labor's Housing Australia Future Fund has failed?
Order. Order. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President, and I welcome the opportunity to talk about Labor's comprehensive housing agenda and the first round of the Housing Australia Future Fund being complete and those applications being processed now. This is a very significant and important reform to have the Housing Australia Future Fund as an ongoing vehicle to invest in social and affordable housing, something that those opposite were allergic to when they were in government, and that has left the state of social and affordable housing in this country in terrible need of additional investment, because there was none. There was no interest in it. We've established a Housing Australia Future Fund that was delayed in this place for well over a year, as those opposite sought to frustrate and obstruct the government's housing agenda. But we were able to get that reform through, and those programs oversubscribed by the amount of interest into the first round. Interest from investors, from state and territory governments, from social and community service organisations that work in the front line, that see the need, the need to invest, that see the need to create opportunity and accommodation for people in need of social and affordable housing. Plenty of people see the need for it. Plenty of investors want to be part of it, and now we will get those projects through. We know you hate industry super. You don't need to interject it. We banked that you hate industry super. We think there are opportunities for innovative investment opportunities to drive social and affordable housing in this country, and this government is proud to support it.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Sullivan, first supplementary.
President, the Prime Minister recently commented, they're the blockers, we're the builders, when in fact it is revealed at estimates that Labor's housing agenda has not built a single home. How can Australians, Minister, take this Prime Minister seriously when his government's supply agenda has failed?
Thank you, Senator O'Sullivan. Minister Gallagher.
Well, the Prime Minister couldn't have put it better. You are blockers and we are builders. And everything we have done since coming to government is about increasing—
Minister, please resume your seat. Order. 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 Senator Birmingham, I've called order. And Senator Hughes, which part of order does not apply to you? Minister Gallagher, please continue.
Thank you. And the Senate will be interested to know that the government has directly supported more than 10,000 homes that have been built since we came to government through the Social Housing Accelerator program, new builds under the Home Guarantee Scheme and through the Housing Australia Bond Aggregator. And there are more homes to come. More than 20,000 homes are in the pipeline through direct Commonwealth investment, including 13,700 properties under round one of the Housing Australia Future Fund, something again that you opposed and delayed and blocked in this chamber. And now it is ready to build 13,700 social and affordable homes. Well, you may not need them, but plenty of people will benefit from these investment in housing.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Sullivan, second supplementary.
On demand, all this government has to offer Australians are coalition policies that it has inherited and the opportunity to co-own a home with the government through Help to Buy, a policy so unpopular that it's unlikely to see the light of day. Minister, why has this government given up on the great Australian dream?
Thank you. Senator Billick and Senator McAllister, order. Minister.
If I can, in 1 minute, give the Senate an update of all of the investments that we've made in housing. $1 billion to get homes built sooner with state and territories, $90 million to boost the construction workforce, the new agreement with states and territories on their social housing and homelessness, crisis and transitional accommodation, first back-to-back increases to rent assistance in more than 30 years, working with universities to increase student accommodation.
Order.
We've got the Housing Australia Future Fund, the $2 billion Social Housing Accelerator, $3 billion new homes bonus, build-to-rent accommodation. We've helped more than 110,000 people into their own homes, and the Help to Buy shared equity scheme will help even more. And those opposite seek to frustrate, obstruct and block. And the Australian community sees it. They see the position you take on housing. They know it's wrong, and they know that the federal government should be doing everything it can to increase the supply of housing, which is exactly what we are doing.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Waters.
Thanks, President. My question is to the Special Minister of State, Minister Farrell. After 2 years of promises, yesterday the government finally introduced electoral reform legislation. But there's no ban on fossil fuel companies donating to big political parties who keep approving new coal and gas mines. There's no ban on accepting corporate donations, and there seems to be massive loopholes in the form of nominated entities which will ensure that the war chests of the big parties can be grandfathered in and spent on national campaigning up to $90 million. When 1 in 3 voters chose to vote for someone other than the major parties at the last election, why has the government introduced legislation that favours the two-party system at the expense of smaller parties and new entrants?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Waters for her question. Well, we haven't done that. We've done exactly. Do you want to hear the answer? Do you want to hear the answer? Do you want to hear the answer? We haven't done that. What we have done with this legislation is given ordinary Australians a chance to participate in the election system in this country. We've taken big money out of this process so that ordinary Australians like these ones here and maybe even some of those over there can participate in the electoral system. We don't want an American-style election system in this country. We get one chance in the next week. To do something about preserving and protecting our electoral system. We're introducing transparency. We're introducing accountability. When you go to the polls after this legislation, is introduced, you'll know whether Senator Pocock over here, exactly who the people are that have donated the $2.1 million to his campaign. You'll know exactly. So if you're going to make a decision about voting for Senator Pocock, you know exactly who's supporting him. Now, we haven't just made it harder for coal companies, gas companies, betting companies. We've made it harder for every company. Every company in this country is going to find it more difficult now to make donations. Not just the companies you don't like. I mean, I understand Duncan Turpie will continue.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Waters, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The second bill introduced yesterday was to legislate truth in political advertising. Now, this is a welcome and much-needed reform that needs to be implemented alongside any increase in public funding to ensure that taxpayer money is not spent on misleading campaigns. And yet you've said you won't progress that bill. Why are you delaying actually legislating truth in political advertising?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Waters for her first supplementary question. Look, I support the truth in advertising legislation. I saw it at work in the black by-election in South Australia. Unfortunately, I know the Greens vote collapsed. I know that. Yeah, very sad. I know the Greens vote collapsed. I know the Greens vote collapsed in that by-election, and you're obviously very worried about it. I won't get on to what happened to the Liberals.
Minister Farrell, please resume your seat. I've got Senator Waters on her feet. Order across the chamber. Order. Senator Waters.
Point of order. This is why we need truth in political advertising. Our vote went up, but my question went to why are you delaying those reforms?
Senator Waters, if you are on your feet, you need to indicate you're calling a point of order. You didn't do that. I'm going to remind those at the back of the chamber that when Senator Waters asked her question, she was heard in silence. So I'm asking you to stop the interjection so the minister can continue with his answer. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. No, you're right, Senator Waters. The real collapse on Saturday was that side of the chamber. 20% swing to the Labor Party. Now, the truth in advertising provisions were used in that election because these people were making false claims about the Labor Party. So I see the benefit, but as I've said to you—
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Waters, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. 80% of voters believe that electoral funding reform legislation should be scrutinised before passage, according to polling released yesterday by the Australia Institute. Why are the two big parties, who both agree on this bill, rushing it through and not allowing a Senate inquiry to scrutinise these reforms? What exactly are you trying to hide with what is a clear two-party stitch-up?
Thank you, Senator Waters. Minister Farrell.
Absolutely nothing, Senator Waters. And so far, I haven't heard that the coalition is supporting the legislation. So we still have to get a decision from them. I'm hoping they'll see the sense in taking all of this big money out of the system. But Senator Waters, we've been working through the system for 2.5 years. How many inquiries do you want to understand that you've got to take big money out of the electoral system? How many inquiries? We've had two JSCAM reports. The Greens have participated in all of them. We've had non-stop negotiations with the Greens, with the coalitions, with anybody else who's wanted to talk to us. At a certain point, it's time to make a decision.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Thank you, Minister. Senator Green.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Industry and Science, Senator Farrell. I refer to the announcement this morning that the National Reconstruction Fund has made its first investment. Can the Minister please update the Senate on this announcement and its impact on manufacturing in Queensland?
Order.
And how is the Albanese Labor government working with the private sector to invest more in Australian manufacturers?
Order. 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 If the interjections continue, I'm going to ask the senator to repeat her question. I want silence in the gallery, in the chamber. Minister Farrell.
President, and can I thank Senator Green for her question. We had a fantastic night last night with all of her constituents from the Great Barrier Reef, and I know she takes great pride in that area of Australia. But obviously, not only is the Albanese government delivering on electoral reform, we're also delivering in the area of the National Reconstruction Fund, and that wonderful minister, Minister Husik, has announced a $40 million investment in Russell Mineral Equipment. Russell Mineral Equipment is a 40-year-old manufacturing business that makes cutting-edge mining equipment which improves safety and productivity at mines right across the world. Their mill relining technologies are used in hard rock mining for minerals and metals such as copper, gold, platinum, nickel, zinc and iron ore, all critical to the global energy transition. These impressive machines are made by highly skilled manufacturing workers in Toowoomba. This investment will help them grow their business, employing more workers and reaching new markets with their fantastic products. The government has always said that the role of the National Reconstruction Fund was to crowd in private sector investment, and that is what we've seen in today's announcement. The support of the RME is part of a broader $100 million co-investment partnership with the NRF and the Resources Capital Funds. This partnership is a clear signal to industry that government is serious about supporting companies who are making miners safer, cleaner and more efficient. I'd like to congratulate RME for their success in securing this investment and thank the staff of the National Reconstruction Fund for their work in supporting a future made in Australia.
Has expired. Senator Green, first supplementary.
Thanks very much, President. How does this investment in Russell Mineral Equipment fit into the Albanese Labor government's broader Future Made in Australia agenda and our support for Australian manufacturing? What challenges has the government's support for manufacturers faced so far?
Thank you, Senator Green. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank Senator Green for her question. Today's announcement is another feather in this government's cap and the minister's cap as it works to rebuild Australian manufacturing following a decade of neglect under those opposite. Our Future Made in Australia agenda is designed to strengthen our existing manufacturers and help new ones to grow. It focuses on the priority areas where we have existing advantages thanks to our world-leading expertise and access to raw materials or cheap green energy. And we are doing all of this despite the relentless negativity from those opposite. Yeah, that's right. Relentless negativity. They voted against establishing the National Reconstruction Fund and energy price relief for manufacturers. They opposed our support for the resources sector, like the production tax incentive.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Green, second supplementary.
Thanks, President. Well, Minister, I appreciate the additional information today about the Albanese Labor government's support for manufacturers across the country and our commitment to deliver a future made in Australia. What is standing in the way of Labor's future made in Australia, and what's at risk if a future made in Australia isn't implemented?
Thank you, Senator Green. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Green, for your second supplementary question. Australia's manufacturers cannot afford to go backwards. Under the former government, 100,000 manufacturing workers lost their jobs, many of those in regional areas. Since coming to government, we've created 70,000 more manufacturing jobs. And Australian manufacturers need a government that will support great businesses like Russell Mineral Equipment to provide high-paying jobs to high-skilled workers in regional Queensland. There's a huge global competition to attract manufacturers in a net zero future. That's why this Labor government. That's exactly what this Labor government is doing. And an arrogant and reckless government, run by Mr Dutton, is the last thing that Australia needs if we want to secure good quality jobs in a net zero future.
Thank you, Minister. Senator David Pocock.
Thanks, President. My question is also to the Special Minister of State, Senator Farrell. Minister, the government yesterday introduced the 400-page electoral reform bill that you, in your own words, said is a once-in-a-generation electoral reform. Given that these reforms only come into effect in 2028, and the fact that JSCAM, which you mentioned, in their report, were pretty broad. They recommended things like donation caps, spending caps. There was no detail, and yet you've got 400 pages of detail. Noting with respect a similar question from Senator Waters that you didn't answer, why shouldn't the bill be scrutinised through a Senate committee process? What is the government trying to hide with this if it's for the 2028 election?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and can I thank Senator Pocock for his question. Well, isn't it interesting that the line-up of people opposing this legislation, there's Clive Palmer, there's Senator Pocock, there's Senator Waters. What a combination of people opposing this legislation. Now, can I say to you, Senator Pocock, I know you were able to spend $2.1 million at the last election, but all these fine people up here in the military, one day, some of them might be interested.
Minister Farrell, please resume your seat. Senator Pocock.
All right, the point of we're just misleading the Senate. That's not how much I spent.
That's a debating point, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell, please continue.
Well, I'd be happy to get you to clarify if it wasn't $2.1 million, what was it? But I ask all of these people up here, the caps that we're proposing to introduce for a lower house election is $800,000. Now, that must be enough money to get your message across. And think about this. You'll be subject to that $800,000, but so will your competition.
Senator Pocock.
Sorry, President. Just on a point of order, my question was about why this isn't going to a Senate inquiry.
Senator Lambie, come to order. Senator Lambie, come to order. You began your question by referencing the 400-page electoral reform report, so the minister is entitled to respond to the whole of your question. Thank you, Senator Pocock.
And I know Senator Lambie here. Originally, of course, she was a United Australia Party candidate and a beneficiary of course, the great generosity of Clive Palmer. But these people up here, one of these days, some of them are going to want to participate in the electoral process. I say to them, we're introducing a cap of $20,000 on donations. How many of you could afford to put in your hand in your pocket and hand over to Mr Pocock, who you may wish to support, a $20,000 donation? These are reasonable limits. I believe they are limits that will survive a High Court challenge. And well, it has taken longer. It has taken longer than I would have liked. But we can't waste a day. We can't waste a day. We can't waste a day because the important
Thank you,
changes...
Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
President, with respect, surely ministers, they can address some tangents but actually get to some sort of answer within the time. Minister, you talk about the JSCAM review having done the work. one of the things that JSCAM recommended was more territory senators from 2 to 4. Given JSCAM's recommended that, why are you picking this other stuff that doesn't need a Senate inquiry, but Territorians can wait? What's going on here?
Thank you, Senator Pocock. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President. There's a certain irony here that perhaps you haven't noticed, Senator Pocock. You want more spending on senators in the ACT, but you're opposed to the parties getting more public contribution to the election process. So there's a certain irony about the position that you're promoting. But can I say this? I've been in the role of Special Minister of State now for some years. I'm on the record as supporting increased Senate representation, and I've said to you, every time you've raised it with me, you grab me in the corridors here and say, "Senator, can I talk to you about this?" I say to you, "Look, we're going to have a look at this after the next election. Now is not the time to do it." But can I say this? When I was there was.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Van.
Thank you.
Just a moment, Senator Van. Senator Van, just a moment, Senator Van. Senator Van, please resume your seat. I've got Senator Pocock on his feet.
Keen for a second supplementary if possible, President.
Oh, did I cut you short?
Sorry, I know they're not comfortable questions, but
Sorry, Senator Pocock, my apologies. I thought that was your second supplementary. Please go ahead.
No problem, President. I was joking. Minister, you've said time and again that you've consulted the crossbench on this bill, yet you gave territory senators no detail, no advance copy of the bill, and we haven't even had a briefing from you on this. It doesn't. Is that good faith negotiations on a bill that you hope to pass in record time, in 2 weeks, without a Senate inquiry?
Minister Farrell.
President, look, I want to make it clear I'm not afraid of any of your questions, Senator Pocock, and I thought I was answering them as directly as I possibly could. Look, you and I have had direct discussions. We've had face-to-face discussions about this issue. This legislation, I bet you anything, if you look at the history of legislation that's passed this parliament, this bill would not be the quickest ever to have gone through the parliament. We've had 2.5 years of discussions. The first JSCAM report laid out the plans. We've had a second report. Every time your colleagues have asked for meetings, or the Greens have asked for meetings, I've had meetings. There won't be anybody in this place who votes on this legislation
Thank you, Minister.
next week
the time
who
for
don't know
answering
what
has
they're voting
expired.
about.
Senator Van, my apologies to you. I cut Senator Pocock short, but go ahead.
No problem. Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Defence Minister, Minister Wong. Minister, in estimates not last week, the week before, I put to you some questions about our relationship with Japan and Korea. And both you and officials talked about how very deep our strategic alignment is. Last week's announcement on C-3000 that a Japanese and a German ship have been down-selected. Can you tell the Senate how this reinforces our relationships in the region, please?
Thank you, Senator Van. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and thank you to Senator Van. And I do recall the exchange. I think it was in Foreign Affairs estimates, but I know your interest in defence procurement. And if I may, while I'm on my feet, recognise the members of the ADF who are here today and on the parliamentary program, and thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. In relation to defence procurement, I think the first point to be made is that the government first has to look to Sorry, I thought Senator McKenzie was saying something. The government has to first look through cost and capability. I was obviously I had a number of other there are a number of other countries who had an interest in this particular procurement. They made that interest public. They would engage obviously with the foreign minister, and I would say to them, look, we deeply appreciate and our strategic relationship with you. We will continue working to deepen that, but ultimately these procurement decisions have to be made on capability and on cost. And that is the basis of the decision that you referenced that the Defence Minister and Mr Conroy have announced. You talked about, I think, the importance of both the Japanese and Korean relationships. I think I've responded to you before. The relationship with Japan is really second only to the United States in terms of its strategic significance. We have a special strategic partnership with Japan. In terms of Korea, there is such an important strategic alignment with the Republic of Korea. I've visited. We are one of the few countries with whom they have a 2+2 ministerial meeting.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Van, first supplementary.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister. Minister, there's widespread rumours that Navy took, of the two bids that Navy took forward to NSC, one was the Japanese bid and one was the Korean bid. Can you shed any light on why it changed from the Navy's pick of the suitable capability to a different one?
Thank you, Senator Van. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I think there's sort of a couple of things I'd say. First, you shouldn't believe every rumour you hear, but more importantly, I certainly am not going to comment on what may or may not have happened in any NSC meeting, but I would say in relation to this procurement, we understand the importance of this procurement. As I said in my primary answer, we were very transparent with the various bidders about the nature of the assessment that was going to be made. Of course, commentators will talk about the importance of particular strategic relationships, but ultimately our job as a government is to make sure we procure the capability that the Defence Force needs. That is the approach the Minister is taking.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Van, second supplementary.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister. And I understand. How would you rate the importance of Germany's participation in the Indo-Pacific as a priority for Australia?
Thank you, Senator Van. Minister Wong.
I'd make a few points. I suppose I'd go to the underlying proposition, which you're making, but you're making politely, but you are making, and which is, we think looking at cost and capability is a sensible, prudent way and responsible way to handle procurement. In terms of our relationship with Germany, Germany is a major power. It is a major economy. It is central to the position, a strategic and economic position of the European Union. It is an important player internationally, and it has been much more forward-leaning in terms of its role in the Indo-Pacific and its bilateral relationship with China in recent years. And we welcome Germany's continued engagement, not only in our region, but also more broadly. It's a time where countries of similar values who believe in the international rule of law work together, and we're very pleased to work with Germany.
Thank you, Minister. The time has expired. Senator Lambie.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister for Employment, Workplace Relations, Minister Watt. On the 24th of June this year, Minister Burke, Minister for Employment, Workplace Relations at the time, announced an independent panel would conduct a comprehensive review of the Safety Rehabilitation Compensation Act 1988, which underpins the Comcare scheme. The Comcare scheme hasn't been reviewed since financial year 2012-13 and it hasn't been subject to any major reforms since it commenced in 1988. Comcare covers more than 470,000 people, providing rehabilitation and workers' compensation arrangements for Commonwealth and ACT government public servants and employees of almost 50 private corporations. A key part of the review is stakeholder engagement and obtaining feedback from injured workers that have real experience, which is being sought through a consultation process. Can the Minister advise what announcement or advertisements were undertaken by Comcare or that department to give the widest possible broadcast that the review was happening?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Watt.
Thank you very much, Senator Lambie. You're right. Under Minister Burke, my predecessor in this role, a review of Comcare was commenced, and you're right that it is a very long time since Comcare has been reviewed, back to 2012-2013. And in fact, it hasn't been subject to any major reforms since Comcare started back in 1988. You've mentioned the fact that Comcare does insure many thousands of employees right across a range of different industries, not just in the public sector, and we did think that it was high time that this scheme be reviewed. Thank you for acknowledging that there is a consultation process underway. I'm not aware of exactly what process was adopted in terms of advertising the ability for people to participate. My understanding was that the intention was to consult as widely as possible, and if that hasn't occurred, then I'm certainly happy to take steps to widen the opportunity for people to be involved in this. We do want this to be a very inclusive review because we know that there are many people in the community who have an interest in a well-functioning workers' compensation insurer. Of course, the workers who are covered under this scheme have a right to be involved in it. The employers who pay premiums have a right to have their views heard as well. So that is certainly the intention behind this scheme. I might just mention that I think that we have managed to assemble a very high-quality panel to conduct this review of three highly qualified people to conduct it. I have full confidence in the work that they are doing, but as I say, if there's more that we can do to widen the number of people who participate in the review and to have their opportunity to have their say, I'll certainly take those steps. And Senator Lambie, if there's particular individuals who you understand have not had that opportunity and you'd like to, happy to have a chat with you about that as well.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie, first supplementary.
Lived experiences by people that were not only covered by the scheme but had cause to use it are critical for getting solid infeed for the review. Did Comcare or the department positively engage with entities relevant to the review or relevant unions to ensure they are aware and seek their assistance for widest dissemination across the workforces and members?
Thank you, Senator Lambie. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Lambie. I've just been advised by my office actually that it is still possible for those who've got an interest in the Comcare review to make a submission via my department's website, and they can do that up until the 2nd of December this year. I would be very surprised. I do remember being briefed on the plans around the consultation process, and I would be very surprised if it was the case that unions weren't invited or that those with lived experience of these issues weren't invited. What I'm not so sure about is what was done to communicate the opportunity to be involved to every single member of the public. But certainly the intention is to consult the types of groups you're talking about to make sure that their views and experiences are heard. But as I say, if there is more that we can do to advertise this, I'm certainly happy to do so. And I'd make the point again that people do have an opportunity up until the 2nd of December to make a submission via my department's website.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Lambie, second supplementary.
It's very, very sad to hear that you've got a whole department and yet I have to do this job for you because it wasn't widely disseminated, was it? The public consultation for the independent review was opened on the 21st of October and is due to close on the 2nd of December. As at today, the period for making a submission is almost 70% complete. How many submissions has a review received to date?
Minister.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Lambie. I'm happy to come back to you on notice, Senator Lambie, as to how many submissions we've received so far. I think what you generally would find in government consultation processes is that the number of submissions received increase as you get closer to the deadline. So it wouldn't surprise me if we hadn't had a huge number up until now, and if that number were to increase in the run-up to it. But I do reject the suggestion that we haven't attempted to involve people in this. As I say, there is consultation occurring and that has been advertised. I'm happy to provide you with the details about what was done to advertise it to individuals, but certainly there is consultation going on with the very types of groups that you've mentioned, and so there should be. We want to make sure that, as I say, the views of workers, the views of injured people, the views of unions, the views of employers are heard in this review. That's why there is a consultation process that's occurring over a number of weeks, and there's still an opportunity for people to be involved if they'd like to be.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Billick.
Thank you. My question is also to the Minister representing the Minister for Education, Senator Watt. Australians understand the importance of a high-quality, robust education, and we hold the integrity of our system in strong regard. Multiple reviews have highlighted problems with the exploitation of international students, particularly in our visa system and by dodgy education providers. What is the Albanese Labor government's common-sense plan to manage international student numbers, and why is it so important to have a roadmap to sustainably manage international student numbers? Good question.
Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Billick, who, along with many of my colleagues, has had a lifelong interest and support for education in our country. So thank you, Senator Billick, for your question. And you'll remember that back in May, the Albanese Labor government introduced legislation to limit the number of international students that can come to Australia. And we took this responsible action to return the number of international students to a sustainable level and to encourage universities to develop new student housing. I want to make clear we value our international education industry and we value the contribution of migrants to Australia, but we've also heard the message from the Australian people that they do want migration to come down to a sustainable level. And that's why we've taken a number of steps which already are bringing our migration levels down. These include implementing managed growth for the international education sector. But this week, what do you know? We learned the coalition is back, with the Liberals, the Nationals, again teaming up with the Greens to block our legislation in the Senate. Having spent months demanding that migration be cut, Mr Dutton recklessly teared up a bipartisan approach to cap international student numbers simply to play politics. Just like, having spent the whole term demanding more homes, he teams up with the Greens to block every step we take to build more homes. In fact, Mr Dutton is so addicted to say no, he's now even saying no to himself. Because remember, in his budget reply speech back in May, Mr Dutton told us that he would drastically reduce net overseas migration by, among other things, capping international student numbers. And now he votes against his own idea. In fact, more than 6 months later, they still have no ideas about how they will deliver their promise to reduce net overseas migration. As each day goes by, Mr Dutton proves why he is not fit to lead this country. He's reckless, he's arrogant, and at a time people are doing it tough, he'll make things worse.
Senator Billick, first supplementary.
Thanks for that answer. Now, too often I hear stories of shonks and crooks who take advantage of students just to make a quick buck. So how is the Albanese Labor government shutting out the shonks and setting up our education sector for success into the future, and why is this so important?
Thank you, Senator Billick. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Billick. And don't they get touchy when we talk about the shonks in the international education system? Is that the sound of Kashi over there? I'm not sure. And I don't mean you, Senator Cash. I mean Kashi. The Albanese Labor government has been working hard to address the serious quality and integrity issues we inherited in the education sector. The Parkinson Review highlighted that the migration system we inherited from Mr Dutton was broken, and Christine Nixon's report revealed disturbing weaknesses in the system that flourished under the opposition's neglect. This included grotesque abuses of temporary workers and international students by organised crime groups, all on Mr Dutton's watch as Home Affairs Minister. Now, we've already taken steps to address some of these issues, and student caps are an important next step to deliver critical reforms to address these wrongs. Our legislation includes a range of sensible and vital measures to protect the safety of international students and protect the reputation of this important industry. But again, the coalition is back. The Liberals, Nationals and Greens teaming up to block our sensible measures.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Bilyk, second supplementary.
Thank you. I noted during his budget reply, Mr Dutton said he would, and I quote, work with universities to set a cap on foreign students. Can you tell us how the Albanese Labor government is working to create a fairer system for universities and students? And what will be the impact of Mr Dutton and the Liberals teaming up with the Greens?
Seriously, your constant interjecting is disorderly and disrespectful. You are not asking the question. Please continue, Senator Bilyk.
And what will be the impact of Mr Dutton and the Liberals teaming up with the Greens, if you can believe that, to block the government's policy reforms?
Minister Watt.
Well, thanks, Senator Bilyk. And you're right. In his budget reply, Mr Dutton did say that he would work with universities to set a cap on foreign students. And he's been saying that month after month after month. He's been saying we need to set a cap on international students, we need to bring migration levels down. But what do you know? We get to the second last week of the year and he says no, because the only thing he can say is no. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's cost of living relief, it's no. If it's housing, it's no. If it's caps on migration, no. Caps on international student numbers, it's no. Every time, it doesn't matter what the measure is, he says no, because he is reckless and arrogant and Australian people are starting to work him out. At a time when Australians are doing it so tough, Mr Dutton, all he can offer is no and no solutions. He wants to make things worse, even if it means contradicting the very same things that he's been going on about for months. Now, we know that regional universities in particular want to see these changes made, and all those people over there who like to put their RMs on and get out in the regions, go and explain that decision.
Thank you,
people
Minister
like
Watt.
you two in particular.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Nampijinka-Price.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister for Indigenous Australians, Minister McCarthy. Minister, there is an election commitment from this government to establish a Makarrata Commission to oversee truth-telling and treaty-making. At estimates 2 weeks ago, your agency reported the $5.8 million budgeted for Makarrata had been moved from the NIAA to the contingency reserve, with officials confirming that we don't have specific resourcing for work on the Makarrata Commission. Minister, will the government keep its promise to establish a Makarrata Commission before the end of this term of parliament, or has it now accepted that this was a bad idea, just as bad as The Voice?
Thank you, Senator Nampijinka-Price. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and I thank the senator for her interest in truth-telling and for her interest in wanting to know about the Uluru Statement from the Heart. As I said at Senate estimates, President, that our government supports, in principle, Uluru Statement from the Heart with voice, treaty, truth. We have never shied away from that. We accept that we lost the referendum and we accept the decision of the Australian people, but we also acknowledge that there was only one question that was put to the Australian people, President, and the question was on a voice to the parliament. There was no question on welcome to countries. There was no question on Makarratas. There were no questions on truth-telling.
Order.
So I would remind the Senate. Well, all right, I'll take the interjection. Let's remember that
Senator
your leader, Senator Hughes, wanted another referendum.
That's right, he wants one.
He wants a referendum. Well, where is it? Where is it? You took to the Australian people that you wanted a referendum, and clearly you're not even interested in that. You do not speak the truth to the Australian people.
Thank you. Order. 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 I had Senator Nampijinka-Price on her feet. Come to order. Senator, first supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, if a Makarrata Commission will not be established in this term of parliament, why is the government keeping taxpayer money budgeted for it in the contingency reserve?
And Thank you, Minister. Please just wait. I haven't called you. Order. It is a good question, Senator Cash, and it deserves an answer in silence. So I expect to not hear your voice. Minister McAllister.
McCarthy.
Sorry, Senator McCarthy.
I know we're very close, Senator McAllister and I do thank the senator for the question. Well, as we know, President, the Senate is a place where we scrutinise and question bills or pieces of bills before the Senate. And, of course, there is an inquiry underway by the Senate into truth-telling.
Order.
There is an inquiry underway by this Senate. In fact, there are senators opposite who are actually on that inquiry into truth-telling, into a bill introduced by Senator Cox.
Minister, please resume your seat. I asked for silence. That is what I asked for. It is disrespectful to continue those interjections. And I tried to ask for silence in a light-hearted manner, but that didn't work. Now I'm asking and I'm requesting that there be silence. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. So, as there is a bill before the Senate that looks into truth-telling, naturally our side of the parliament is involved in that
Minister,
committee.
please resume your seat. Senator Nampijinka-Price.
Thank you, President. Point of order. The question was very specific in relation to the budgeted money, not the actual. Not the fact that there's an inquiry taking place.
Thank you, Senator.
But specifically to the contingency reserve.
Thank you, Senator Nampijinka-Price. You started your question referencing the Makarrata Commission, and I believe the minister is being responsible and reporting and answering your question. Please continue, Senator McCarthy.
President, so naturally we are waiting the outcome of that Senate inquiry.
Thank you. Senator Nampijinka-Price, second supplementary.
Taking direction from the Greens. Minister, rather than shuffling money on the backwards-looking programs like the Makarrata Commission, why won't the government agree with the coalition to focus all spending on programs that make a real and effective difference to Indigenous lives?
Thank you, Senator Nampijinka-Price. Senator McCarthy.
President, our government is contributing greatly to improving the lives of First Nations people. In fact, I continually reach out across the aisles to senators opposite to come and learn about that. I had a meeting yesterday morning which Senator Price was invited to, Senator Little was invited to understand what we are doing. And I'm more than happy to do that again, President, but they clearly do not want to hear good news.
Senator Wong.
So further questions be placed on notice.
President.
Oh, thank you.